5, 4, 3,
3, 2,
2,
1.
1. Hello, I'm David.
And I'm Gabe.
And I am Kipp.
Welcome to the filter. Let's clear the air. So today, guys, we have a special guest. Not a guest, but we have our final member of the filter.
Wow.
And that is Kipp.
Been demoted to special guest.
Yay!
You're
No,
special guest. You
it's not-
missed last week.
I know.
Yeah.
First episode, and I
Imagine-
wasn't even there for it.
Imagine.
missing a week. Imagine that. So yeah, sweet. Welcome, Kipp.
Hello. So, gentlemen, what are we talking about today?
Well, I mean that's up to you to tell the audience, my good sir.
Okay. Well, today we are talking about online schooling, how it affects us,
Yay.
how it
Oh,
affects
Jesus.
teachers, what we've noticed about it, just everything we've seen and experienced with online schooling.
That's
What a rough time.
that's literally it though for my personal experience. The only word I have to describe it is I've never experienced such headaches in my life because there would be days where you'd submit all your stuff for Friday, right? And then you'd have your good weekend, and then Sunday night teachers would be like, "I'm glad you had a good weekend. Here's 16 assignments due tomorrow," and we'd be like, "Excuse me."
Exactly.
It would be so bad, and like you'd be like, "I don't want to do any of that." And the teachers would be like, "I don't understand the problem here." And you're like, "You just assigned 16
I know.
assignments due in
It's-
less than 24 hours. Like,
Yeah,
that's real good."
That's an issue. That is a huge issue.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, are you done with your experience?
Yeah, that was basically my experience. It was just, I'm so happy that our school year is done because I've never felt such pain in my life. And I've never been more depressed in my life because I would wake up and realize that I'd have to learn things, unmotivated as could possibly be, that I'd have to learn things that would be of no relevance in my life once the school year ended. Like, chemistry was the biggest problem in my life for this whole experience of online school. Like, the teacher was fine. I loved our teacher. But the problem was, like, the content we were learning, you didn't need to know that stuff, like stoichiometry and the learning the percentage mass of moles and all that other and molecular compounds. You didn't need to know that stuff. That's not basic gen ed. That's stuff you would learn if you wanted to study chemistry. And
Right.
that made it so terrible. And I had such pain to log on every day and do those assignments to the point where one day I was just like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And yeah, I suffered a little bit, but I'm not going to risk my own mental health over stuff like that, especially for someone like me who wants to go into, like, I want to go into corporate law, right? I don't need to learn how to do the molecular mass of a hydrogen sulfate or whatever. I don't need to know that stuff. Like, in no way in a corporate law am I going to have to do that. So even for gen ed, everyday use around the house or something like that, I'm not going to be doing that stuff. So to learn that stuff, which was hard in the first place, and with no teacher there, it was bad. And you were like, ugh. But yeah, that was my experience with it. I'm happy that it's over.
All right. My experience, I would have to say, like, I'd have to agree with you, Gabe. There was a lot of stuff that was completely pointless, and like classes that I took this year, most of them were completely unimportant to what I was trying to eventually go to college for. Like, I'm gonna be a music major, and unfortunately, there are absolutely no music classes at our school. We only have chorus and band. That is it.
Right.
There is no music class, which is absolutely ridiculous. So I have learned basically nothing that I need to know over this entire quarantine. And that is a problem that I think really took a toll on me as mentally and just as a person overall.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly how you feel. Like it's not that the teachers could help it either, but like that's what they have to teach. It's not like they're making this painful on us, but it's just something that they have to do, and they know that it isn't easy, and we know that it isn't easy. And how you said, like, we have no music classes in our school, and you want to be a music major, like, that just is absolutely rough, especially for, like I said, with you. Same example applies to you as it does to me. Like, you don't need to learn stoichiometry and how to be a music major, right?
Right.
Like, that's just kind of ridiculous and pain that we don't need to experience as students. And Kipp, you're our senior this year. You graduated. You're due to
Yeah.
graduate, correct? How was your
Yeah.
experiences?
Um, my experience personally was, I don't know, okay. Since I'm older than you guys, our schooling might be a little bit different because everything changes year to year. So I'm gonna take it back for a second to middle school. I don't know if you guys had this, but in middle school, my class was given a standardized test to see what kind of learner we are. And it was basically split up into like a couple different categories, like you learn better when you read, or you learn better when it's visualized,
Okay.
or someone says it to you repeatedly,
Right,
stuff
right.
like that.
I remember taking that.
Yeah, me too. I was always the hands-on type of person.
Yeah, I am very much a visual and audio learner. I want to be able to hear what I'm supposed to be learning and see it. So doing online stuff and not being able to um, hear what the teacher was telling me face to face was just extremely hard. My grades when it first started absolutely tanked
Mm-hmm.
because I love asking questions. I've never been shy to ask questions during class. I always ask questions. I'm always the person raising their hand at the end of every lesson. And to not be able to do that consistently, like it almost felt like it was wrong to ask questions because you'd have to go out of your way to personally email a teacher and basically say that they need to reteach the lesson for you because you didn't understand anything they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I
I get
think that
that.
was very hard. And that's
Yeah.
basically all I gotta say.
Okay.
I got that 100% what you're saying there. Like, I do, especially with the whole go out of your way thing. Like, Zoom, all right, that's a popular thing. Everybody who's anybody as a student probably has Zoom now on their phone or a computer or tablet or whatever device you're using. You probably have Zoom. Uh, the group discussions with teachers, our language arts class, AP composition, right? We had to have mandatory Zoom calls every Monday, which was fine, right? To discuss, like actually have class discussion. But uh, like you'd have to hold the whole thing if you had a question and stuff like that. And for classes that didn't have online Zoom and stuff like that, you would have to personally email your teacher. You'd have the chance of it not sending in some form because the file was wrong or whatever, it just didn't send out, right? You'd always have that thing to worry about, or the teacher's response never got back to you, and it always felt like a hassle. So I understand completely what you're saying.
Okay.
And
So
then,
Gabe, your uncle was a teacher. So
correct.
what did his what did he have to say about all this stuff?
So he taught for 35 years, right? And when I asked him, I was like, how could you compare online school to face-to-face school? And he always said personal contact is very important for a student. It improves their communication skills, first of all things, as like, being able to talk to somebody is a very important thing, especially like good grammar, right? You can't talk like you've been living under a rock for years, right?
Right.
Um, but it's also important for like how Kip said we struggled to communicate with our teachers, and it was hard for us to receive help on lessons that we didn't understand. And for a teacher to be face to face with you, it makes it easier to explain as a person. And as well, he said that a teacher could also gain a better emotional connection with the student. So when you're with a student for a while, right? Like for our school, it's 42 minutes for every class, right? And in those 42 minutes every day for most classes, the teacher gets to know you as a student, and with that personal connection more, they could help you explain it to you in a way that you will understand versus a way that another student would understand. And another thing that he really said that stood out was interaction with other people. Like I said, it improves your communication, but the activities that come along with this, like being
Mm-hmm.
in school, the
Yeah.
activities that come along, that helps boost the students' morale when they're feeling low. Like you don't know how many times you go into drama club or band or course or whatever it is that you're doing, right? That you just have been having the worst day, but when you step into that choir room or the band room or you're stepping on the stage, your mood instantly changes and you feel so much better because you're with the people that you like, doing the things that you like to do, and it helps keep you out of trouble as well. And
Right.
that's one of the things that he said
Absolutely.
that you can't get in an online school and in a like in a computer, right? That's something that we couldn't experience. Like our show we mentioned last week, our show was halted because of
For
the
drama club, yeah.
yeah, like our show for Drama Club was halted, and a lot of us missed that experience, and that's something that we are gonna have to fight to get back. While doing things safely, obviously, with following health guidelines and stuff like that. But online school doesn't provide that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, my mom, for anyone that's watching the podcast that doesn't know me personally, my mom is a teacher as well, and she has had constant issues with this entire online schooling thing. She is hated grading. It is so. She says every day, it is so painful to have to sit down and grade every single time. It is much more of a hassle than having papers in front of you and just flipping through them, rather than opening a student's page, clicking on their assignment, opening the assignment, and then also having the gradebook next to you and like doing that over and over and over again rather than just flipping a paper over and continuing to grade. It's much more of a hassle than regular school. But obviously, there really isn't any other way to grade a student's assignment other than that. So it really sucked for her
Right.
to put it frankly. Um, so let's summarize what basically we've been talking about here. Um, I think all three of us can agree that the entirety of the last quarter, we just had a lack of motivation to do absolutely anything for school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, it sucked.
hmm Um, when we were actually doing our research to like actually understand more about the effects of learning online, the something that I found interesting, like one of the reasons why everyone like Kipp said his grades tanked for a little bit, and we felt so unmotivated. The Daily Aztec, they reported students are simply not motivated at online classes. Many students, especially procrastinators, may find themselves cramming for assignment deadlines and exams because they didn't plan out a study session
Me.
throughout the
That was
semesters.
me.
Yeah, and that's not an effective way to learn. That was as of the Daily Aztec.
Right.
I will say
So,
too,
And Kip,
um,
yeah.
so earlier we were talking about a lack of communication between the teacher and the student. There's also a lack of communication between all the teachers in general. Because when we're
Exactly.
normally
Yeah.
in school and a teacher assigns a test, we could like tell them, hey, we have a test the same day in a different class. Can we please move the test so that we're not studying for all these things at once and
hmm
stuff like that? And you can get classwork done during class most of the time. Like they give you that time to do that. And with online schooling, it would be wake up in the morning, have absolutely nothing all day till like say 12 o'clock, and then you just get bombarded with like five assignments from like 20 different classes, and they all expect to be done by midnight because everybody wants to keep you busy the entire day,
hmm
and they don't really know how much work the other teachers are giving you, so they just give you as much as possible.
Right.
Yeah, that was a big problem. I know teachers still held faculty meetings because my mom, she had
Right.
them a lot, but I guess they never really went over that during faculty meetings, which is a shame. Would have helped a lot.
hmm Um.
um.
Oh,
So,
sorry.
oh, do you want to say something?
Back to what we said. How I should have added this in when Kip was talking about like how he affected things, but we're trying to figure out the effectiveness of this and how effective online schooling could actually be, and another thing that I found that was interesting, the bestofcollegesonline.org reports, when it comes to the difference between passing and failing, courses had the on-campus or person-to-person courses had better outcomes. Researchers found that 63% of students passed traditional courses, but only 56% pass online classes, according to the bestcollegesonline.org. Now, 56% passing online, yeah, that's good. That's over half of your kids are passing, correct?
You mean 63?
No, 63 are passing traditional, like face-to-face, and then 56 are passing online.
Oh, gotcha.
So, yeah, that's
Sorry.
over half, but at the same time, when you have a 63%, when you compare the two, right? 63% of persons or students face-to-face, they're the 63% face-to-face, that 63% is looking a lot better than your 56%. Obviously, that's just common statistics, correct? And how good is it really effective if only half of your kids are passing? That's passing. That's not getting straight A's or anything like that, right? That's just passing, like a 70% or whatever the passing grade is in your school.
So also, we have a lack of pass-fail system at our school, and it's like really annoying because that means that all of our grades, regardless of how low they are still being counted into our GPA. And that is so frustrating to me, personally. Because teachers have said that they care about us, right? And they care about our mental health.
Right.
And they should be able to see from our low grades, because I tanked as well, Kipp. They should be able to see that our low grades was a result of our mental health. Like, we have been struggling this entire time because we never knew when we were going to be able to go back. And we found out that we're never going to go back. Like, it really took a toll on our mental health, and that tanked our grades, but the school board was like, no, you're going to have it counted as a regular quarter.
Right.
And that
really
ticked me
hurt.
off.
That really
On the topic of teachers and school board not caring about our mental health and such, I do think that some teachers, not all of them, but some teachers have gotten incredibly lazy with online schooling.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
finding random worksheets online, putting them up, and with Google Classroom, you can have a quiz that grades itself. So I know that your mom had to go through everybody's different projects and grade them, but people can just go online, type a whole paragraph answer, and then the computer decides whether it's right or wrong, or they pick multiple
Right.
choice. And I think a lot of teachers are using advantage of that because it's convenient for them, but also sometimes it's just not accurate. Sometimes you
Right.
really get screwed over.
Right.
Nah, I have to agree there. Gabe, did you have any input on that?
I have a story about that actually, but like, long story short, you had I had a little
Wow.
paragraph due on an explanation for one problem for math, right? Pretty simple. I just had to explain it. I failed that little thing because I didn't use the words the computer wanted me to use, and the teacher
That
was
is
like,
annoying.
"Well, the teacher is like, you're missing the cube, like the setup was that you needed to use these words and stuff like that, like along these type of lines." And I explained it my own way, which was the same way as what they were saying, but I just didn't put it in their words. So
Right.
like you failed it, and the teachers were like, "Well, that's just what they marked you as. I can't fix that." And I'm like, "Yes, you can. You can just go in and edit it. You have access, buddy."
It's so dumb. So
Uh-huh.
dumb. And we already talked about lack of person-to-person contact. We don't need to go
Right.
into that. So pros. There were a few nice things about this entire thing. First of all, for teachers, the mass customized learning, or also known as MCL, kind of went into effect here because they were allowed to assign assignments whenever they wanted to, and have them due for whenever they wanted to. So students, if the teacher literally assigned an assignment or like a week's worth of assignments that were due throughout the week, the student had the option of doing them like on the day they were due throughout the week, or doing them all like in one day, or a chunk of them in one day, and that's kind of nice for certain students. Not for me,
At
because
Justin.
I know that's one of our friends, Justin, that does that, and good for him. Good for him.
Exactly.
I'm like, honestly, those people. Props to you because I can't do that. Yeah.
I have
that
to
was
take
really
like a
good thing.
break after like 2 hours. Like I can't
Yeah.
I can't sit there and do homework for more than 2 hours straight, or I will just. That's probably more effective than putting me in a padded room by myself. I will go insane by doing 2 hours of homework straight.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I don't know about you, Kipp, but
I
I'd have to.
don't like work at your own pace, if I'm being honest.
I don't really either, at all.
I think it gives procrastinators the biggest advantage known to mankind.
I don't think it's
Because-
an advantage. I'm a
Disadvantage.
Well, it is.
procrastinator.
It's a disadvantage, right? But like that's an advantage for the procrastinators because it's like work at your own pace. Okay, I don't have to do it till so and so.
It's
Like,
not though.
so-and-so's
I'm a
good.
procrastinator, and it's not an advantage. I had assignments that I waited like last minute for, and I was like, yeah, I could do this, because the most of the time in school, the way I finished assignments and stuff is that I waited till the last day, and the fear of failing the assignment set in, and I was like, it's time to do this
Mhm.
assignment. And
That's
then with
exactly what I feel,
online learning, it's just like I don't know. I think also not seeing them face to face, you don't get to see the teacher's disappointment when you don't hand something
Oh,
in.
exactly. That's exactly.
Oh my
So
God.
there were a couple times when I was just like, not today, and I just didn't do an assignment, and there was no fear.
Yeah, I'd have to 100% agree with you on that. Next pro, there were less restrictions. So, like assignments, like teachers gave directions, right, to do an assignment, and they weren't like they were kind of loose for the most part. Oh, that's my dog. Sorry about that. But the directions were pretty loose and weren't super strict, and also, because we're at home and we weren't in a classroom, we could eat food while we did assignments. We can't do that in regular school, like for at least for us.
Right.
We could be on our phones while we're doing our work, or we can listen to music. We can't even do that in our school.
I'd say that's a con.
Really?
That's a
do you
con for
distract you?
procrastinators because it just
It
made
can
me
put
want
you
to
off
procrast
topic.
more.
Oh.
Procrast is that a word? Is that
I don't know, but I
is that a
invented it.
verb to procrast?
I mean, shows you how much I learned in online schooling.
That's so true. And last pro, so it was pretty. Some of the work was easier than what it would have been in regular learning. Like at least for AP English Language and Composition, she canceled our final. We got a free 100. It was amazing.
What?
And we didn't
Well,
have
at
to,
least for-
the
At least for
15-page
people who
paper.
took, yeah, at least for people who took the AP test. If you took the AP test, you didn't have to write this 15-page paper. And then even if you didn't take the AP test, it was a 5-page paper.
I
That
took
was
that
really nice.
15-page paper final. Let me tell you.
I would have liked to do it, but I would have hated to do it.
No, you
Just-
no, you wouldn't have. I procrastinated. Imagine writing 15 papers in the span of like 3 hours.
That's a big rip.
To be fair though, she gave us a lot of time in class to work on it.
Yeah, so that probably made it a lot easier.
Mhm.
Because there's
You
really
know,
nothing to
something
do after you take the AP test. It's kind of just like, okay, now what?
Right. I would actually say that I'm gonna add a con real quick. One of the things that really made this online schooling hard was the fact that there was no allotted time for school. Like in school, you go to school and you do your work at school, right? I know there's homework, but most of it is at school, right? But at online school, there is no school time. It's just you have assignments that you're supposed to do. do them when they're due. It's for me that is so hard. Like I need someone to kind of manage my time for me in that scenario, and that's kind of what public school does for you. Is it gives you 7 hours of time to just learn and then
Right.
go home.
You kind of become a slave to the ideas of like in our school, 7:40 marks first period and 2:25 marks the end of ninth period. That's a school day
Yeah.
for us. So that's what our brains are trained to when it comes to school. You learn
Mm-hmm.
in between those periods. Everything else is like that's not school. So to have those times that was like basically all 24 hours of your day, you could be doing schoolwork was like, what?
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I consider myself to be a pretty smart person, and especially with like math and stuff, the teachers usually like gave out the homework at the beginning of class, like they'd write it on the board. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember I used to do this all the time in um, pre-calculus. I would go because we had books for pre-calculus that all of our homework came out of. I'd go in the book and finish like nearly all my homework before she was done the lesson or while she was teaching the lesson. So it was like taking notes and doing homework at the same time. And then I was done by the end of the period and then didn't have any homework that night. And I did that for a couple classes, like chemistry and stuff like that.
I
So
feel that.
having to like which online schooling, another con I'd say is that they're not really lessons. It's kind of just worksheets where you have to teach yourself based on the directions,
For the most
at
part,
least in my
yeah.
experience.
Sometimes like in chemistry and in my math class, I took AP statistics this year. We did get lessons, but most of the time, it was just worksheets. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is really hard
Okay.
when you have to like kind of teach yourself.
Right.
Right. I absolutely agree. Okay. Let's move on. We are really running high on time here.
It's all right.
That's okay.
Alternative. So we're gonna talk about what we would have liked to see. Like at least I think these would have been better alternatives to uh, doing online school. Okay. So first of all, we should have had a pass fail system. We shouldn't have had our grades count in a GPA. I am strongly against that. I am very upset that our school decided to make them count as regular GPA because this is not a regular quarter. We're at home teaching ourselves. This is not normal. So it should not count.
Right. This is something we've never done before. And same thing with the teachers part too. This is something they had to become accustomed to. So it
Right.
was very new to everybody and they were like, they'll figure it out. And that's kind of
And
poor leadership by our board there.
absolutely, I could not agree more. Um, Another alternative. They could have only assigned a final. Like if we, how our school did it, we were quarantined March 16th. We went home March 16th this year, and then we just had no school for 2 weeks. Maybe when we realized we were gonna not come back after those 2 weeks, they could have just said, "Here's one big assignment for each class that you have to finish by the end of the year," and then we could have spent the entire rest of the quarantine working on that. Um, well, at least we could have finished quarter three because we were in the middle of quarter three, and then we could have moved on to that big assignment. I think that would have went really well, honestly. Um, I
I
don't
agree
know
with that.
if you agree with that. Okay.
I agree with that. I mean, one
I think
assignment to put all your effort into is way better than trying to teach stuff. Like, I don't know how your guys' finals was. That was a lot of
they were all
S's
right.
that didn't need to be
It's
there.
fine. It's fine.
I don't know how both of your finals went, but pretty much my final was stuff that I learned in the first half of the year.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
the only exception was a book that we read for the entirety of quarter four for my English class and did assignments on, and then we had a big assignment as the final. But again, I didn't really learn anything new. It was kind of just like I did a book report. Like I could have read that book by myself and did it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would have been a good idea, honestly. On it, like, and if it would have counted, I wouldn't have minded. Like, honestly. Okay, and the last alternative that we have come up with is no assignments at all. Um, at least I think for me, I think it would have made sense to finish quarter three and then not do quarter four. I think personally that would be better for us, but I don't know how it would actually end up working beyond high school. I don't know how they would be able to figure out like grades and stuff for the fourth quarter and how would we would make up for it. I don't know. Or if the state, maybe if the state said, if this happened actually, um, maybe if the state said literally quarter four just doesn't matter. You've completed school. That's it. Because this is a terrible thing that's happened and you need to be safe. And we understand that you need to be safe. I think that would have went well, honestly.
that
I
sounds
feel like I learned.
amazing.
I know. I feel like I learned nothing the fourth quarter anyway, so
Right.
it would have been a good idea, honestly.
David, I'm going to be
Just,
honest with you right now. You're talking of the promised land and I want to go.
just rewind the past 2 months and then do that. That would have been great.
I agree so much because that's just like no assignments would have been so great. I'm trying to find them, but I can't. But there are schools that I know that stayed close and didn't assign any their kids any assignments. They just stopped in their third quarter grades or whatever however they do it, quarter semesters, right? Wherever they stopped, that was it, right?
Right.
And what those kids they had. That was fair. It was in school, and they didn't make their
Exactly. Yeah.
they didn't make their kids do anything that we had. And I could almost guarantee that those kids never felt depressed or sad or just miserable because of school.
Well, not as miserable as we
Right.
were, certainly.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
All right.
miserable either if I got like 2 to 3 extra months of summer.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, it wasn't also 2 to 3 extra months of summer because at that time most places were still in a red phase. It was only these past
Mhm.
2 3 weeks that we actually started opening up. But even still, like I said, like David said, those kids were not as miserable when it came to schooling because they didn't have to worry about failing because they
They
weren't
didn't have assignments.
right. They didn't have assignments that they couldn't understand. Like the teachers were like, okay, it's maybe for the best if they didn't learn this because they need our help. And that's the teacher's job to guide a student to help them understand what they need to learn.
Exactly. All right. So, out of all three options, the pass fail system, only assigning a final, or no assignments at all, I'm going to ask Gabe first. Which do you think would have been the best alternative?
I'd say
And
only
why?
assigning a final. Um, I don't like the idea of no assignments at all. I agree. Like, I understand why, but I don't agree because we are still technically in school. Like, we have to learn something because that that just gives the teachers a purpose and stuff like that. But more than that, like we need that. We're kids. Like we have to learn and grow. This is the time when we do so, and we can only do that like by having something. So I don't think we should have learned a new content, but from what we learned the whole year, right? Wrap that up and call that a final for a big assignment. That would have been more. I would have been more than okay with doing that.
Okay. I would have to agree. Kip, what do you have to say? What do you think is the best?
I agree with that also. Okay, I agree to an extent because I think that the online school could have been used a little bit better. I feel like there has to be an alternative out there, just like something that makes it a whole lot easier than just teachers assigning work and saying have fun. Like even calls, I've had a couple like Zoom calls and stuff, and they were really good. Like we talked about it, and it was face to face, but also it was kind of just like reviewing what I already did by myself and not necessarily learning a lesson. And that's where I have the problem, is that if I'm going to have to do schoolwork, I want to learn a lesson and not just give me directions and let me fend for myself. And if I'm being completely honest, I wanted Minecraft school.
That would have been super cool. Should have put that as
That
one of
is.
our alternatives.
Minecraft school.
If I have to choose, I'd say only final, though, out of all of them.
Okay.
So we're all in a good agreement then.
For me, I would say also only assigning a final. And I think finishing out quarter 3, putting grades as normal would have been fine, and then having fourth quarter just be devoted to one big assignment for every class would have been much easier work-wise and on our mental health. Like, hands down.
Right,
I
I
would have been perfectly fine.
agree.
I would have been perfectly fine putting what I learned this year so far in the first 3 quarters together for a final for one assignment as a big testament to what the entire school year has been about. So I think that would have been great. And that way we weren't like going crazy the way we would by what we did this year. Like I basically went crazy. Or if we did no assignments at all. I feel like I'd kind of get inside my own head and go a little crazy there. So I think having a final would be something to work for and we'd have something to do, but it wouldn't be overworking ourselves.
Right.
All right, I'm glad we all came in agreement there.
That was a really good. That was really good. I'm glad we all agree.
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
so next week's going to be fun. Next week, David is going to be discussing his top 10 games with us, and me and Kipp are going to sit and hear what he has to say. Comment
I'm so
on him
excited. Here
and there, maybe. I think it's going to be awesome.
I'm not going to hold back. If you're wrong, I'm going to call you out for your trash.
Yeah, but the problem is half of them you probably won't even have ever played. So
that's probably true, but it's
if
okay.
Number
It's
one
okay.
isn't Minecraft, throw it away. Don't even
that's
bring
a very
it here.
valid statement.
I will throw in games. I'll try to throw in games that I know you guys would know, but a couple of them will be totally out.
Well, that's
You can
okay,
make a
but
genuine
be
one.
true.
You can make a genuine one based off your personal experience, and then make like a
Top
separate
10
list.
What we all know. Top 10
Yeah.
what we all know.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I think that's pretty fair.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and if you have any comments about how we can improve, put it in the comment section below. That's what it's made for. If you want something for us to talk about that you're really burning to hear our voices speak about, I don't know, My Little Pony for 30 minutes, let us know.
Yes.
Let us know in the comments and we'll do our best, I guess.
We will be bronies for you.
I will not. I
Absolutely.
refuse.
And if you have liked what you heard today, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And if you subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you can get notified when we actually upload. And
Which is
that's
usually
gonna
every
wrap it up for
Friday.
this. Yes, we're going to try to make it every Friday. So this has been this week's episode. I'm David.
I'm Gabe.
Before we leave, start a movement. Hashtag voice crack. No. Hashtag filter Friday.
Hashtag Filter Friday. I like it. Let's go.
Make sure you post about it.
Hashtag
and
Filter
hype
Friday.
For the next few weeks. Okay, now that we're done with this week's episode, I have been David.
And I'm Gabe.
And I have been Kipp.
And we will be seeing you next week.